Welcome back to the Norse Benchwarmers podcast. I am your host, Colton Smith. Here joined by producer Josh Northcutt and director Garrett Jordan. Fellas, we are back in the studio. Feels weird being back on campus, but I'm here. How was your guys' break? I guess we kind of talked about that, but also how was your first day of class? I'll ask you that. There you go.
I had one class today, and then obviously we've been waiting to do this, but the one class was very easy. Found out that it's all going to be on television series, which I assume means I'm going to have to write my own pilot.
You're taking Bowman's class.
Yeah, there you go.
Yep.
Instantly.
Dude, I love that class. I don't know. I was like cooking. I thought by the end of that class I was going to be like a writer for like CBS, just cooking up like absolute bangers, or Warner Brothers, not CBS. What am I saying?
Yeah, I got another hope on that one. I just want to get out of it with my C and graduate. What about you, Garrett?
I mean, like you, I also only had one class today. I mean, it's the first week of school. If you're in college, you know it's syllabus week. So all of my classes this semester are all 2.5-hour blocks, and I have one class a day every day of the week except Friday. And I got out an hour and a half early today because the professor really didn't have anything else to go over other than the syllabus. So.
W professor. A lot of them like to drag it out. Like, we have to be here from the entirety of the class.
No.
Love a professor that doesn't feel like they have to do that.
She was very to the point. She gave us a syllabus that was 3 pages long, front to back, and all it had on it was the information that you needed to know and nothing else. I was like, I'm going to like this professor.
Yeah, so you don't get that every day. Get that every day. Well, unemployed life, just, woke up about 10 o'clock or so. Get a little workout in, gotta get those. There goes to Josh. I was like, I guess I'll come over to NKU. Might as well. What else am I
Enough of your
doing?
life story. Let's talk sports.
All right. Well, let's start with some NKU stuff, starting with women's basketball, who, don't look now, they're on a streak, fellas. They defeated Robert Morris 72-58, and then went on to defeat IU Indy 80-63. I have some notes, but Josh, you have been working on these games, calling those games, so I'll let you take it away.
That IU Indy game was the most impressive game I've seen from them this year. Both sides of the court, offense, defense, a whole team effort. Very, very, very impressive. And then the Robert Morris game that happened on Wednesday, take from that is just Blevins. It's good to have her back. Almost close to 15, 10, and 5. Almost got her first career double-double. And it's been emphasized post-game conversation, I guess, that she's been kind of getting stabs of, hey, get some rebounds, because her dad called her out, and then coach called her out, and then career high 9. So I guess when dad calls and you listen.
Yeah, it helps. I saw in there that the Norse outscored Robert Morris 23-9 in the fourth quarter. They also had 29 points off the bench, 12 of those coming from Kimora Morgan, who continues to impress the freshman. So my other note was Macy Blevins, that leading scorer, getting those boards. And, that's something like just a lot of effort in there. And I know she's a high-effort player, so seeing her put that more of a focus on rebounds, I think that's going to be really key for this team.
And then going back to the IU Indy game, 2 transfers from IU Indy, Abby Walterman and J.C. Jones. They said they didn't take it personally, but I think they had a little bit of chip on their shoulder.
There's a little something.
Walterman had 11 points in the first half, and then J.C. Jones had a 6, 8, and 3. Plus, I think she had 2 or 3 steals. Not crazy impressive, but doing her part also to get the win. That you can kind of tell that they had a little extra something for IU Indy.
Yeah, absolutely. And this game was really won in the second quarter. NKU outscored the Jaguars 26-12 and pretty much just held firm on that lead for the rest of the game. So that's a pretty good way to win a game by doing that.
5 points allowed in the first quarter too. That defense was very impressive. If they could have had more shots to fall, it would have been a blowout from the first quarter on. But they struggled a little bit early, and then the second quarter they turned it on and didn't look back. It was a very, very nice win ahead of a big game, not to look ahead, but big game next Saturday versus Purdue for a win.
Yeah, they got two big games here. The Lady Norse will go on to face Youngstown State on Wednesday. They lost 56-47 to this team earlier in the year, but with Blevins back, wow.
Hopefully.
Say that 3 times fast.
Hopefully.
She hurt?
Her ankle. She
Yeah.
might have rolled it. I think it was like 6 minutes left in the fourth quarter.
Yeah.
Aggravated a little bit, but
Towards the end of the game, she stepped on her own player.
But that being said, not to say I'm a doctor or anything like this, I will say after the game, she was walking up the steps with a little bit of limp. She went up there to see some family, I guess, and whatnot. I think if you're walking on it on your own power, maybe a little bit sore, but I hopefully she'll be playing on Wednesday.
Absolutely. She'll be very key to get that win. The Penguins have dropped their last 3, so they're on the opposite, a 3-game skid as opposed to a streak. So I have a feeling it'll be no easy feat in enemy territory. But you mentioned they have a date with the Mastodons of Purdue Fort Wayne this Saturday on the road. They have won 9 straight. They are 7-0 in conference. This will by far be the toughest challenge since earlier in the year against some of those Power 5 schools. And if you ask me, it'll be very key to win against Youngstown State on Wednesday to have that confidence to knock off Purdue Fort Wayne on Saturday.
I totally agree. And it's going to be one I'm going to watch. I usually don't go out of my way. I'll be the first to admit to watch some road games.
Yeah.
But that's going to be one I'm going to tune in for.
Absolutely.
Just to see how they play and whatnot. Because, I mean, you've mentioned it many times, is 3 days in March is basically all it would take.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, maybe get some momentum, be the first one to knock that number 1 seed off and see how that carries on going forward, because this team is vastly improving, and I think a lot of it deals with health, and then a lot of it's just learning the system and getting more confidence, because they're getting points from a little bit of everybody.
Yeah.
I believe 3 or 4 players scored in double digits versus IU Indy, so it's really nice to see.
Yeah. Moving along to the men's basketball. Not as pretty as it was last week. They had a great run going, but they definitely stumbled on that run. First, they lost handedly to Youngstown State last Wednesday, I believe. They outscored the Penguins in the second half, but could not overcome that 17-point deficit they faced in the first half. And it was just a tough scenario coming off a team who had looked really hot to start conference play, just came off their first loss at home. It's just like an easy bounce back game. Trey Robinson led the way with 19 points and 6 rebounds, but an abysmal, not from Trey Robinson, but from the Norse, 6 for 21 from 3-point throughout the game. Youngstown State had 13 3-pointers, so even if NKU was having a hot day, Youngstown State was having a hotter one, but they were just a step ahead at home, and just a rough one.
Yeah, it's kind of rough to see. That was one they're definitely going to want back, and they'll get a chance to play a Youngstown State in the last game of the year on March 1st. So you know they'll have that circled, especially coming here to Truist Arena.
Absolutely.
But, man, I didn't get to watch the Oakland game. I left after the women's game, but I heard Oakland just had every shot falling, and there's not much you can really do about that.
I would say that, but then there's also this kind of narrative that when we were on our winning streak, we were hitting threes and hitting them very well. And now we're just kind of, when you live by the 3, you die by the 3. I'm a Pacers fan. I know that there's been Purdue years where we've lived by the 3 and died by the 3, and we absolutely died by the 3, 68-53 against Oakland. Joshua, you doubted Greg Camp, and this is what happens.
It's not that I doubted him. I just didn't know. Like, I see this guy everywhere now. Like, I'm not kidding. Even the podcasts I listen to talking college basketball, they like drool over this guy, and they love this guy. And I mean, I kind of get it. When you're that loyal to a smaller program, you've earned respect around college basketball. And I guess I'm your typical big name, follow the Power Fives kind of fan before obviously coming to NKU, where now it is where I'm watching these smaller schools and getting respect for the smaller schools and cheering on the smaller schools. Because I'll be the first to admit, not to change the sport or whatever, but I was anti-Boise State. I hated Boise State growing up, the little guy and everything else. Get out of here. I was that annoying SEC fan, even though I wasn't an SEC guy. But yeah, a lot has changed, all right? You grow, you mature.
Of course.
You go to a smaller school.
Of course.
But yeah, so.
But yeah, Oakland controlled this game from the start, never letting off the throttle. NKU struggled to find much of anything on offense. Sam Benson led the way with 11 points. But like I said, the three-pointer was not their friend whatsoever. 7 for 29, 24% if you're doing the math at home. Just to go a little deeper, one made three in the second half of 11 attempts. You're not going to win any games. 36% from the field as well. So you're not going to win any games with those splits. And yeah, Oakland gave them. Camp must have listened to the podcast because he gave an ass whipping accordingly. So. But looking forward, they have a huge week ahead of them, the Norse, that is, going up against first place in the Horizon League, Cleveland State, up in Cleveland Wednesday at 7 p.m. They didn't return home to partake in the Battle of I-75 against Wright State. So they have an opportunity against the top of the conference and a rival. What better way to flip the script on what was a little stumble, maybe just a little bump in the road when you look back on it, but it also could grow even larger if we don't capitalize.
Yeah, no, you definitely have to win at least one of these. The Cleveland State game would be really, really nice.
Huge, yeah.
But let's get two in a row here. That's the best way to say it. Let's just get two in a row here.
Absolutely, yeah. And I think the big key for them to do that, to win both these games, is figure out how to score outside of the three-point line. Yes, score threes, make threes, get up to 8 threes in a game, but don't be so reliant on it. That's why you lost against Houston, amongst other things. But the main reason, and that's why you lose some of these games recently, is that you're just too reliant. Make the three a part of the game, not your entire game. But we'll see how that all plays out. Let's move along to get Garrett in the conversation here with some baseball. The Reds made a big signing. This is a while ago. Was it after our podcast, or we just didn't get to the
trade they just did?
Yeah,
that was
trade.
Before, yeah, it was Lux was before.
Okay,
it's just we were tight on time.
Yeah, we had to talk about some football, but we don't have as much football to talk about this week. So let's go ahead and I'll hand it over to you guys to talk about the Reds, because I'm not like the biggest baseball fan. I'll make it known. But I'm very excited for this season, no doubt, and ready to go to some games.
Absolutely, Garrett. You got the list of some of the moves and whatnot, or are you?
Yeah, no, I can run down some of the moves really quick. Some of the moves that I saw highlighted. So we had a couple guys go into free agency. But the Reds signed Brent Suter and Nick Martinez back. Obviously, if you're a Reds fan, you saw Nick Martinez got that big contract for him, so I'm happy for him. The first big trade to hit the market was Jonathan India being traded to the Royals or Jonathan India and Joey Weimer being traded to the Royals for right-handed pitcher Brady Singer. Ian Jabot, also another arm in that bullpen for the Reds, hit free agency. Another trade that the Reds made, they traded with the Yankees for catcher Jose Trevino, and they gave the Yankees right-handed pitcher Fernando Cruz and catching prospect Alex Jackson. Another trade that they made was with the Rangers. They gave cash considerations for right-handed pitcher Owen White, who is definitely not in my book. I've not heard that name, so it'll be interesting to see where he slots in to that Reds organization. And then obviously the most recent and sort of big news that we alluded to right before I got into this was the Reds trading Mike Sirota to the Dodgers, outfield prospect Mike Sirota to the Dodgers for second baseman Gavin Lux.
Well, asterisk on the second baseman. He plays a little bit of everything, and that's the reason why they like bringing him on. In their mind, he's the Jonathan India replacement. He's going to be playing a little bit second base. He's going to play a little bit third. He can play short. He can play left field, maybe center, pending his health and everything else. So that's kind of where they feel he's going to script in. I like the trade, and I know I'm kind of in the minority of this. Of a lot of Reds fans are like, "Oh, not another infielder, not another infielder." But Lux has playoff experience with the Dodgers. At 2-3 years ago, Gavin Lux was a top 10, 15 prospect in all of baseball. You don't get this guy for quote-unquote Sirota, who honestly was probably never going to see the field. It's kind of hard to say, but I know the Reds need a lot of outfield help, but he wasn't that outfielder that they had plans for in the future, and that's clear with Lux. What about your take, Garrett?
I would say I'm in the opposite side of that camp. I mean, I understand where you're coming from with the idea that, yes, Lux is definitely much more of a util piece than I would say a dedicated infielder, but I would still say he spends more of his time in the infield than he does the outfield. And as a team that has a dearth, or not a dearth, but has an expenditure of young infielders that you can call up, I would just prefer to see more moves being made in the outfield as opposed to the infield. But I get where you're coming from with the Gavin Lux can be a good util piece. I'd just rather have a more everyday outfielder.
And that's fair. Now, does this change your opinion if they do move Matty McLean to center field like rumored?
Yes and no. I know he played a couple games at center field last year for us. I want to see a little bit more from him. So if they do choose to start him in center field, I hope it's an experiment that works out. If we were talking earlier, I think you said it would be Matt McLean in center, Friedel to right, and Steer in left.
Yeah, that's
kind of what the formula
rumor.
Would be. Yeah,
that is the rumor. Yeah, and then. Very quickly, there's still names out there when it comes to outfielders. When you're the Reds, you get the scraps. You're not going to get the top guy in free agency. It just doesn't work that way in 2025. So if I said the names Jerkson Profar, Austin Hayes, Alex Verdugo, Jesse Winker, or Anthony Santander, outside Santander, obviously I know that's going to be your answer. Yeah. So the other four, how about that? Profar, Hayes, Verdugo, Winker. Do any of them excite you of possibly being that third everyday outfielder?
I think the only one that jumps out to me off that list is Doogie. I think he plays very consistently when he is in the lineup. Obviously, he's kind of bounced around a couple teams, so a bit of a journeyman at this point in his career. But I think that's kind of what the Reds need right now in the outfield until they find that, like you said with Mike Sirota, where it's like, yeah, he's good, but I don't think that's the piece that the Reds are looking for. So I think getting a guy in like Doogie would sort of provide that like stopgap piece while we look for that outfielder, but he would be enough for this coming season.
And I'll end it with this though. Lou Bob is the real answer, but we're probably not going to get him.
Yeah,
but until he's traded, I'm going to keep holding out hope that Lou Bob is the guy.
Lou Bob and Ellie on the same team? Are you kidding me?
Yeah, hitting back-to-back. Matty McLean, Lux, Stevenson, CES, Marte. Like, it would become the NL Central favorite, in my opinion, if that happened, especially pending, obviously, starting pitching health. But I'm excited for the pitching staff, and I'm very excited to see what Francona has planned with all these young guys. But Colton, we'll throw it back to you before we ramble about baseball too long.
All right, well, let's talk about, that trade would probably make them a part of the winner's circle, which is what we're moving on to here. And I want to go with a very basic one. Wearing the hat, I'm going with the Indiana Pacers. They've been looking a lot better over the past couple of weeks. Got a win over the Cleveland Cavaliers. They play again at Indianapolis tomorrow, and I'll actually be going to watch that game. So I figured I'd make that my winner circle to give that positive vibes headed up to Indy and hopefully seeing another win. But yeah, I'll just stop it there.
All right, I'm going to go ahead and stick to the NBA as well, surprisingly, which probably absolutely startles Colton as his face is like, wait, what? Huh? My winner circle goes to Nikola Jokic and Russell Westbrook becoming the first pair of teammates to record a triple-double in the same game twice in a season. I know there was a lot of critics out there that said these two things couldn't work, but it's kind of starting to work a little bit.
Just give it time,
and
folks.
I'm telling you, man, this team come playoff time is going to be very, very, very dangerous if they have this and you have the combination of pass, give, and go. Jamal Murray eventually starts playing like the Jamal Murray that we all know. This Nuggets team is going to be a very, very hard out.
This might be the most screen time the NBA's gotten all season.
Well, Garrett, do you have an NBA one?
Why would I have
Why
an
in God's name would that dude have anything resembling a basketball as his
Hey, you never know. You never know.
What do you got, Gary?
I'm gonna give my award this week to the Houston Texans because I think they defied a lot of odds when they were the higher seed, but realistically they upset the Chargers in this game. I mean, they, like I said previously, the Texans limped into the postseason. I don't think anybody expected them to win this game. One bad game from Justin Herbert, and now the Texans will be playing the Chiefs in the divisional. So, but it's more than just one bad game from Herbert because a quarterback can have a bad game and a team can still win. But I think the Texans showed a lot of resiliency. I mean, they put up 32 points on the Chargers. That's no small feat, especially when the Texans have been performing as bad as they have been. So props to the Texans for maybe figuring it out here.
No better time to figure it out than playoff time. But like you said, one bad game, or I guess two bad games, and Justin Herbert is now Andy Dalton. So that's
that's the meme right now.
And to be fair, you can't argue it yet. You seriously cannot argue it yet. Looking at the beginnings of their careers, I don't think you really can. So Garrett disagrees. I can tell by his but let's move along to some college basketball talk. It's been so long since I've been able to talk about this sport. I'm very happy. I'm going to go ahead and we're going to go through the top 25. I'll list that, and then we kind of have some storylines we want to talk about from the last week or so, and then we're going to play a little buy or sell. We've done it on the show before, just talking about some teams if we buy or sell them and their March prospects. So let's talk about the top 25 first. Auburn is now the #1 team in the country, with Iowa State falling in second and Duke in third there. Alabama and Florida round out the top 5. Florida coming off their big win against Tennessee. Tennessee is in 6th. Marquette has snuck up into 7th, just kind of quiet these past couple weeks, getting wins, and that's all that matters. Kentucky has slipped down to 8. Kansas at 9. Houston rounding out the top 10. Then Texas A&M falls out of the top 10 in 11th. Michigan State, Oregon, UConn, and Mississippi State make the top 15. Gonzaga, Purdue at 17. Memphis is at 18. They're another one that's just really been quiet. They impressed early in the non-conference, but now they're in AAC play. So really the only time we'll hear from them again is when they lose to a team in the AAC. But regardless, they're still in that top 25, and they're a sneaky team. Illinois drops 6 points or 6 spots after losing to USC. Michigan, I think there was another loss in there, but Michigan up to 20. I mean, Dusty May taking effect very early. I know that was something we talked a lot about at the start of the show.
If you remember, I was very big on that hire. If they would let him recruit his guys, and they did. Mm-hmm. They let him kind of flip the script, but he's also getting play out of the guys who were there last year. It is a very, very nice start for Dusty May and the boys in blue.
We're going to talk about them a little bit later, but currently undefeated in conference play. Be interesting to see how that all plays out. Ole Miss with good old Chris Beard in 21st. Utah State at 22. They have that like really tall guy. I can't think of his name. I should have known that. But I need to watch some more Utah State though. They just snuck out a win over Boise State, who's always a solid basketball program. Georgia, their first entry in the top 25 in quite a while.
Very well deserved.
Very well deserved, and they could rise the ranks this week. They have ample opportunity. We will definitely be talking about that here pretty soon. And then Wisconsin and Baylor round out the top 25. Wisconsin back in that top 25. It's been a while. They were there early and then dropped off there. Some teams that are missing, Oklahoma, I thought they were kind of snubbed. I felt like they should have still been in like at 24 or 25. They still got 63 votes. St. John was the most received because I guess what's his name's there? Rick Pitino, good Lord. And then West Virginia is also hanging out there. Those are the 3 teams that I think could have been in there over Baylor if you ask me, but Baylor did not lose a game last week, so they get it. Anywho, enough talking from me. Do you want to get into our first storyline here?
Yeah, first storyline is the team that you mentioned. It was Georgia. Georgia this week had themselves one, beating UK and Oklahoma at home. They're now 14-2 on the year, and only 2 losses are to the top 25 Marquette and Ole Miss. Georgia Bulldogs football school? No, it's a basketball school, my friend.
Not this year. Not at all. Back-to-back rank wins, Kentucky, Oklahoma, like you said. It's all behind this 6'11 freshman, Asia Newell. He's stealing the headlines. 15.4 points per game, 6.8 rebounds per game, along with a block and a steal on that. I mean, he's doing it on both sides of the floor, and he's a really fun player to watch. They have a huge opportunity to make a statement this week. They really do. Wednesday, they go to Tennessee to face Knoxville, and they have another ranked game that we'll mention when we're talking about the games coming up this week.
Absolutely. It's one of those things that's it's just crazy. I remember when they hired Tom Crean, and I thought, okay, yeah, Georgia would be back. Georgia would find a basketball, and it didn't work. It didn't work out there. The man who's probably living off of the Dwayne Wade season, but
Oh, he had some good teams in Indiana. You ever heard of Victor Oladipo and Cody Zeller?
You mean D-Wade Jr.?
Yeah, that's
Especially
true.
if he never got hurt. I mean,
Yeah.
that's a dude.
God.
Sorry, buddy.
Oh, no,
Sorry, buddy.
no,
Sorry, buddy.
no.
Oh, no. All right.
Anyways, it's funny you mentioned Tom Crean, though, because Tom Crean actually is getting a lot of calls to come back as the head coach of Indiana after the lackluster season they're having to this point. So I doubt it's going to happen, but he did basically call them out without calling them out on his Twitter, just basically like with the team struggling. Like when you do this, this, and this, your team's going to struggle. And that kind of started that spark.
You got another team or something?
Yeah. I was going to talk about the UCLA skid. Welcome to the Big Ten, Bruins.
Boy.
It's been a rough start. Mick Cronin gave an all-time post-game presser across all sports, ripping into his team. It appeared to not work, though, as they lost to Nebraska, Michigan, and now Maryland. I think Maryland is the one that happened after that. But, they had notable regular season wins against Oregon and Gonzaga. That's still a conference game, but it was kind of during that regular season. But I didn't think this team was going to shock the world or anything. But I'm honestly questioning whether they're a tournament team. I think the talent is most certainly there. I think the coaching is there. But for whatever reason, I think there's a lot of behind-the-scenes stuff that is going to hold this team back and eventually maybe hold them back from making the tournament.
Yeah, and it's not like they're losing to the powerhouse teams of the Big Ten either. Like Maryland, don't get me wrong, is an impressive start. That's going to be a team I want to bring up a little bit.
Michigan, and Nebraska have all kind of been sneaky good teams.
I'm still not sure I'm there on Nebraska. Maybe it's something I'm not missing because it's the name Nebraska.
That's fair.
But I'm just going to add another thing to the Big Ten. It's not welcome to the Big Ten. They've been there for a while, but Rutgers. All that hype on Rutgers, they're also not off to a very hot start. So both Rutgers and UCLA kind of disappointing, and they play each other this week. One of them is going to fall very below the path of you got to win the Big Ten title in the tournament in order to make the tournament.
Yeah. I would agree with that. And then I'm going to move on to the SEC. I just got a question for old Coach Cal. You good? You good, bro? 0-3 in conference play. 11-5 on the year, so I guess you got a winning record there. But I mean, you look at Kentucky; they find themselves as the number 5 team in the country right now. That was pretty fast. I mean, we're seeing the effects of it pretty quickly. Arkansas just looks like another Kentucky, except they don't have the name brand of being Kentucky to be still in the top 25. So, it's interesting.
0-3 in SEC play, and I don't know if you watched his post-game presser.
No, I didn't see it.
Man, he was basically just telling everybody to relax and we'll be fine and we'll move on and this and that. And it's like, Cal, they're not paying you for that, my buddy. They bought that contract out, right? They had to pay for the buyout.
Oh, yeah, he had a lifetime.
It's one of those things. They're paying you big, crazy amount of money. They're putting all this NIL money, and they're not seeing production.
I'm just pumped for that Arkansas-Kentucky game. It'll be a nice 40-point blowout, I think.
No, I don't. I'm not going that far.
Hey, we'll see.
When is that game? Do you happen to know off the
I
top
don't
of
know
your
off the top of my head.
Okay.
It'll be within the next month.
Where's
or so,
Alex
I'm
when
sure.
we need him?
Yeah, where is Alex when you need him? But is there any other storylines you wanted to bring up here?
I think just the one was just another SEC. First off, the dominance of the SEC. You have 9 teams now in the top 25. We talked about it on Beyond the Score. Rumor 13 teams could get into the tournament come March, which I still think 13 is crazy. But Florida taking down Tennessee 73-43 and led 34-15 at half. Florida is scary.
Yeah, we're going to talk about them a little bit when we get into that buy or sell, but yeah, Florida looks good on both ends of the court. I need to sit down and watch a full game. I watched that beginning of the Tennessee game, and I saw where that game was going. And I was like, you know what? I'll wait till another game that maybe is a little more accurate of a representation. But yeah, I'll be honest. It's obvious I'm not the biggest Tennessee guy. I just don't think whatever the formula that Rick Barnes just keeps on repeating just isn't working. So I'm not necessarily like shocked that they knocked off the number 1 team in the country. But this Florida team is back. Like they are so back, and I think they could definitely make a deep run in March. But with that, we ready to go into our little buy or sell?
Sure.
So we'll start with Auburn. So basically what it's going to be is I'm going to say, hey, do you buy that Auburn is going to be Final Four team. Josh will tell us if he buys or sells, and then I'll give my opinion on it. So, Josh, take it away. Do you buy or do you sell that Auburn is a Final Four team?
Well, they were my pick to win it all.
I was going to say, I think this is like the most obvious answer.
I believe
here.
I actually told you to come aboard the bandwagon back in February, but not February.
Back in February. Hold up, wait a minute.
November, but you didn't want to listen to me. You needed to see it, and then you saw it. But the big thing is where I want to put an asterisk is Johnny Broom.
I was going to mention that.
If Johnny Broom is out, they're no longer a contender for at least the Final Four. If Johnny Broom can get healthy by the time March rolls around, I'm buying Auburn 100% as a national championship contender.
All right. I also buy Auburn, and I have that same asterisk as if Johnny Broom is not around. It's concerning, but I think the team can be without him for a couple weeks. Hopefully they don't have to be. I know he's out at least for the next week or so, but we'll see how that goes. Duke, do you buy or sell Duke as a Final Four team?
They're the best team in college basketball.
I sell.
Wow.
This team is fun and flashy. They are freshman oriented, and I will not trust a freshman oriented team to make it to the Final Four.
7th and 2nd in Ken Palm. They're doing
Listen,
it. I'm telling you.
Stats are great. Do they account for age?
That's fair. March,
They
you
do not.
need experience. And that is my one thing. I am very questionable about their head coach. Never been in this kind of
I wasn't
big,
even just talking
big
about that.
limelight, but I'm 100% buying. I think they're best team in college basketball.
Okay. Did Auburn and Duke play?
Why do I want to say?
That was a rhetorical question. They did, and Auburn won. Florida. Do you buy Florida as a Final Four team?
With the statement win, I want to see a little bit more out of them. Have you heard anything about the head coach offer or issues?
Okay,
off the court?
I'm actually stupid. Duke won that game against Auburn. My bad. I am an idiot. Holy crap.
They lost to Kentucky. I know that.
I misremembered. Yeah, I put the wrong team in the wrong thing.
Gotcha.
So I'm
You're
sorry.
fine.
That was pretty funny when I said it, though, right?
It was a very nice layup. Unfortunately, got swatted.
Unfortunately, I said that, and then I was like, wait a minute.
that would've been-
Auburn has a loss. Who did they lose to? It was Duke.
That could have been my perfect Dan Orlowski. I missed my opportunity. By the way, look that up if you haven't seen it with
It's
Sharp.
so good. I love that.
But
clip.
no, I need a little bit more out of Florida, so I'm not putting them in the Final Four. I don't know if I can do sell, but I'll say sell for the job of this whole thing.
Yeah, I agree. I'll have to see a little bit more. I think the game I'll really have circled is that game against Auburn. Hopefully Broom's back, so it's a bit more accurate representation of Auburn. But yeah, so moving on to Iowa State. Buy or sell them as a Final Four.
They're playing offense finally. This team is very, very, very scary. And if you also remember, again, this sucks because when we were going to do this episode, it didn't work. But Iowa State was one of my Final Four teams.
It was.
Iowa State, Duke, and Auburn I've been on since November.
Yeah. Okay, I love that because I've been on the Iowa State train since last season. They're a really fun team to watch. And let me tell you, Curtis Jones might be the best player on the team, and he is coming off the bench. I am buying them as a Final Four team. And the last for the Final Four, do you buy or sell Bama?
Selling because they still don't play defense.
Yeah, sell. Okay, good. Those are just the teams that I've kind of seen tossed around as Final Four teams. Let's talk about a deep run. Making it to the second weekend, do you buy or sell Kansas as a deep run team?
Buying because they still have Bill Self.
I sell because they have Hunter Dickinson. Gonzaga, do you buy or sell them making a deep run in the tourney?
Buying because they never don't get out of the second weekend. Like they get there. It's just when you get I think it's like 10 straight years they've done it. They're the longest streak for the Sweet 16. It's seriously like 10, 12 straight years.
Huh.
You get your bracket, you put them in the Sweet 16, and then you figure it out from there.
I guess I was thinking of when I had them making the Final Four and they lost in the Sweet 16.
I will say an interesting stat for them is Zaga is 14-1 plus 80 points, 0-3 under 80 points when scoring. So they need to score.
All right, so we are out of time for the rest of the buy or sells. We had Purdue on there. I would buy. Would you buy?
I'm selling currently right now.
Screw
I
you.
need to see a little bit more.
And then we had Cincinnati on there. Selling. We are selling. We are taking that. It's worth a cent, but it's sold.
Shit, I'll sell.
That team literally couldn't hit Ocean if they were standing on a beach, man.
Garrett, you're going to have to hold that trivia question again because I believe it is more important that I get through this slate of games for this week for college basketball.
Go right ahead.
Tomorrow, I did not know this weeks ago. I should have looked at the schedule, I guess, but I'll be at get a Pacers game, while number 21 Ole Miss is going up against number 4 Alabama at Bama on ESPNU at 7. Chris Beard looking to make it kind of his first statement at Ole Miss, and this is the perfect opportunity to do that. Number 15 Mississippi State at Auburn, number 1 at this time. SEC Network, give me Mississippi State without Broom. I think that will definitely hurt, and this Mississippi State team is looking to bounce back from that loss to Kentucky.
Auburn's still at home. Give me Auburn.
All right, I don't blame you there. Number 11 Texas A&M is also facing off against number 8 UK, all at the same time.
Buzzsaw, baby.
It's like, really? Like, what are we doing, SEC? Like, spread it out a little bit. But yeah, that Auburn and Mississippi State game is probably the one I'm most interested in. Moving on to Wednesday, my game of the week, number 11 Kansas at number 2, or sorry, Kansas is number 9 now. Number 2 Iowa State. That's on ESPN2. That's at 7 p.m. as well. Number 23 Georgia at number 6 Tennessee. Watch out for an upset there. I know Tennessee's at home, but Georgia is hot, and they're looking to keep in that top 25.
I'm gonna say this is where Georgia can prove it. Like you mentioned, this is the week where it's okay. Georgia's for real, but if they drop both these games that are kind of going on this week, you could then come back around and be like, okay, they're still Georgia.
Yeah, yep. And then we have number 10 Houston at West Virginia, who isn't ranked, but I think should still be ranked, should get back there at some point in the season. Shout out Coach DeVry for getting that team back relevant as it should be. And they're looking to get back in that top 25 at home against Houston. Houston has a tendency to keep games close, whether you like it or not. And yeah, also the Red River rivalry is going on that night, Texas at Oklahoma on SEC Network. And then lastly, the Saturday slate of games is chef's kiss beautiful. I will be on my couch watching these. No, I will not be. I'll have NFL on the side, but the main thing I'll be watching: number 4 Alabama, number 8 Kentucky at Kentucky Rupp Arena. That's at 12 on ESPN. Creighton, number 14 UConn. I think that's a sneaky game. Creighton looking to get back into some tournament bids, going up against a UConn team that is 50-50. That's on Fox at 12. Then number 10 Houston at UCF. I think that's just another upset type game that could come up. That's number 12. That's on 12 at CBS Network. Then number 1 Auburn going up against number 23 Georgia. I think this is at Georgia. This is the game I'm very confident in Auburn not having Broom taking the loss, but maybe Broom will be back by then. We don't know. What do you think about that?
Yeah, if they don't have Broom, I do like Georgia to get the home court advantage. That place is going to be going crazy. It's going to
haven't had a good basketball team like this in years.
It could legit be a football atmosphere in that stadium or arena, I should say. No doubt about it. And then Purdue, Oregon, like you said.
Purdue, Oregon, of course. And NBC at 3.
Ole Miss, Mississippi State also that day.
Egg Bowl.
21-14 Egg Bowl in basketball. I saw that's not on a network at this moment. That better get picked up here pretty soon. Number 19 Illinois also playing against Michigan State on that Sunday 12 on CBS. And I want to mention, because I mentioned it on I don't know if I mentioned it on here earlier or what, but number 6 Tennessee is going up against Vandy, and I think they are sneaky. I think it's a sneaky game, and then maybe it's just because I'm looking at football season too much, but this Vandy team is probably one of the best they've had in a while, and I think they could potentially at home make that upset happen. But beautiful slate of games this week. I'm excited to go through them all, and that is our college basketball section. Wow, that beginning must have taken a lot longer than I thought, because Garrett said like 3 minutes and it was like a deer in headlights. Anyways, let's move along to the NFL, the playoffs, where I guess they were this last week. And wild card, I feel like the wild card's always kind of a mixed bag. I can't really point to a wild card weekend where I was like, holy crap, that was just good football from start to finish. But we had some good football, some good moments. Do we want to just go ahead and start with the first one? The Houston Texans defeat the Los Angeles Chargers, rip off the Band-Aid for Josh, 32-12. I said it on the Beyond the Score podcast. Go check that out, Beyond the Score 123 on YouTube. Yeah, so Harbaugh is a QB whisperer, huh?
I told you, this tape will not be on any kind of record. It was bad. It was a bad game. Herbert literally threw 3 interceptions all year. He threw 4. But the one thing I was a little bit iffy about is the Beyond the Score mentioned how great C.J. Stroud looked. He didn't in the beginning. They had his number. No. They picked him off. He made some really, 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 really dumb mistakes.
But then he looked really good after that.
True. I just don't think he looked great, I would say. So, you know what? It happens, but I'll sum up the wild card weekend like this. We should just cut the NFL down to 8 teams. 8 teams in the playoffs. These
You
games
mean
are
8 teams in the playoffs?
Yeah, sorry,
I was like, hold on.
I mean, we got blowouts all over the place, guys. Why do we need more teams in the playoffs? I mean, it's the rule in college football. Apparently, everybody wants again. So you know what? Let's go back. We had blowouts everywhere.
Okay. Ravens and Steelers, 28-14. Yeah, another blowout. Ravens pretty much held control of this game from start to finish. They were up 14-0. Steelers thought they might work their way back. Actually went up 21-0 at one point, but it did not happen. And the Ravens got the win, and they will go on to face the Bills, who defeated the Broncos. 31-7. That was a really fun first drive where I thought, hey, Bo Nix just threw a bomb down to his former teammate Franklin. Maybe they have a chance.
That didn't age well.
No.
Not in the slightest.
The summary of the Steelers-Ravens game is Derrick Henry still running. I think he might have just scored another touchdown again. And the Bills-Broncos, it was just a difference of a team being there before and a team not.
Yeah.
The Broncos are still young. They're still new to this whole playoff type thing. So, hey, welcome back to the party, but you need to go home. The big boys are at play.
That defense put together a really great first half and kept this game close, which was what I thought would happen with the Broncos. But it's just like the second half came on, Josh Allen, Bills, they flipped the switch, which has been the case most of the season, which worries me for next week, but we'll talk about that a little later. Moving down to the Eagles and Packers, if you would have told me after the start the Packers had that they would still have a chance in this game in the second half, I would have been shocked, but they did. But just starting with a muff punt and then a 4 and out is just not a really good way. We talked about it in college football. You need to, and this is just all sports, you need to hit them in the nose to start the game. When you are on the road, you're going up against a team that is expected to win. You have to show them that you have a chance to win this game. They did not. Jordan Love, 3 interceptions on the game, reinforcing that Brett Favre narrative that is surrounding him. Except he didn't have the touchdowns to go with it. Yeah, it's
I think the Packers fans have called Toyota and asked to extend the Toyota-thon into January and February. I don't know if you've seen the stats of Jordan Love in
Toyota-thon's
the
going on.
yeah of Toyota-thon
I've
and
seen
not. It's literally like watching Patrick Mahomes in the playoffs compared to watching
Mitch Trubisky.
Yeah, Mitch Trubisky. Yeah, I mean, dude, his not like they're undefeated during the Toyota-thon.
I'm confused what the correlation is.
It's anytime the Toyota-thon's going on, Jordan Love is unbeatable. I'll look up the stats right now as you talk about another game.
It's a classic example of correlation without causation, but it's just funny that they correlate with each other.
Wow, I did not know that was a stat. That's one of the ESPN stats of all time.
In 9 games before Toyota-thon, Jordan Love threw 2,009 yards and 14 touchdowns, and then I'll come back once you're done. Go ahead.
For the Commanders and Buccaneers game, this was by far. What was it all for?
Oh, I just want to talk about the Packers a little bit.
Oh, we could go back to it, but yeah, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say a big thing for the Packers here was all the injuries they sustained on the field. I think my dad texted me after the game was over, and he said it's tough to win a game when you go from 22 starters to 15 starters by the end of the game. I'm looking at a little list here. Elton Jenkins went down. D lineman Devontae Wyatt, receivers Romeo Doubs and Jaden Reed both went down. I'm sending a prayer up for Romeo Doubs because that injury looked nasty.
Yep.
Quay Walker for them, and also center Josh Myers went down with late injuries. So, I mean, that's 6 starters that you lost throughout the course of that game, and the backups just kind of had that deer in headlights sort of feel, like they weren't ready for that game.
Yeah. Was there any points you wanted to make about the first 2 games? First 3 games?
Not really. I think you guys all pretty much covered those effectively.
Not much to cover.
No, not really much to cover. I thought the Steelers might win with a little bit of black magic, but it didn't happen.
No.
Everything else kind of went to chalk like I expected it
Jordan
to.
Love during the Toyota-thon this year alone was 8 touchdowns, 1 interception, a QBR rating of 120. And then it's like when he's dude, it's unreal.
Like he was the one that thought about like, oh yeah, Toyota-thon was going on, and Jordan Love was doing good. And it happened twice.
There's literally a photo of him now. He's basically a sponsor for Toyota-thon. It's like a red Christmas blazer that or ugly Christmas sweater he's got on that they're just running with it now. So again, Packers fans are going to ask for Toyotathon to be extended into at least January.
Maybe February if they get a good enough January. But the Packers have a lot of things to figure out. I think after that great playoff where we saw them defeat the Cowboys and then give the Niners a good fight, I think we thought they kind of had it figured out, and at the end of the day, they did not. But I want to give a huge shout out to Josh Jacobs. I don't know why I didn't say that. Obviously, Saquon got all the flair, but he showed up to play. He absolutely showed up to play. Had an incredible play there to get a touchdown. Oh, yeah. I thought Saquon switched teams. I didn't realize Josh Jacobs had that in him, and it was a really eye-opening performance for me. I mean, it wasn't great. This Eagles defense is really tough, so he didn't have the stats to show, but there was just some runs where it was like that man just did some grown man things.
He might be the most underrated running back in the NFL.
I agree. I think he is the most underrated.
He gets absolutely no buzz despite the fact that he led the league in rushing 2 years ago. I don't understand it.
Yeah.
He just gets overshadowed by your superstars like Henry and Barkley.
And McCaffrey and everything else.
And
McCaffrey not this year.
Yeah, but you know.
Yeah. But I mean, outside of those three, I think this year he was the third best running back because McCaffrey was out most of the year. And I think he could go down as is this generation just one of those running backs that should have gotten talked about more and didn't. But maybe with the Packers Super Bowl run, that could change. I still think it's there. I think there's a lot of things to figure out.
Sixth in rushing yards, fourth in touchdowns, sixth in carries. So I mean, he had a top 5 running back season.
Yeah,
and he's just not talked about. I didn't realize he put up those numbers.
No. Me neither. Garrett was the only one because he had him in fantasy.
Yeah, he started out the year a little slow, and so I think that's a lot of people just sort of turned him off, moved on at that point. But it was throughout the year he just kept slowly getting better and better and better each week. Mm-hmm. But
and it was his first year with the Packers, was it not?
Yes, this was his first year.
So you'll have that growing pains.
Yeah, no, exactly. Here's what I think for the Packers. I think the Packers are very close to making a deep playoff run, maybe even a Super Bowl run. I think they are 1 star wide receiver short. I think the core that they have right now is really good, but no one is really jumping out from that group to me as you are a clear number 1 target.
So
I don't think
do we throw the name T. Higgins there?
I mean, if I'm the Packers, I'm looking at it. But I don't necessarily think you have to have a T. Higgins or a number 1 receiver to make a deep run. I don't. I think if Jordan Love can spread the wealth like Josh Allen is, in past years Lamar Jackson and Patrick Mahomes have, I know Travis Kelce, but in terms of wide receiver core, he has a great tight end in Kraft.
Kraft.
I can remember it's Kraft or Croft.
No, that's the 2, Tucker Kraft and Luke Musgrave.
Yeah.
Both that's a good 1-2 punch.
Musgrave has been hurt most of the year too.
Yes, he has. So I think if you can get those guys healthy, I think that's the other thing. If this team can stay healthy for the next year, Jordan Love gets that sophomore slump out of the way, and I think this team could be back. I think we just underestimated what that sophomore slump would look like and what injury problems. Because remember, the season started with Jordan Love being injured too.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna say I will never, ever, not that we condone gambling, ever bet on a sophomore quarterback again.
I don't know why he did in the first place. I guess I would have bet on C.J. Stroud. But
that's what I'm saying. Both sophomore quarterbacks that were out there.
Which makes me worry about Jaden Daniels and.
Luckily for him, he doesn't have to start his sophomore season yet because they picked up a big win, 23-20 over Baker Mayfield.
I love that lob. Beautiful lob I just set up for Josh, intentional or not. But yeah, that was a game, and it really played out the way that I kind of talked about. In that, the one team came out, the Buccaneers had some good runs, some good drives, and then the Commanders had some good drives, and then the Buccaneers again, and then it was a even game. And then it just came down to who made the game-winning plays. The Commanders made the game-winning plays, and they advanced to face the Lions next week.
I would argue more so it's not the Commanders that made game-winning plays; it's that the Bucs made game-losing plays.
Okay.
Just
That's true.
Watching some of those things. I mean, some of those mistakes. Obviously I love Baker. My heart goes out to him. But some of those mistakes are just not something I'd expect to see from a guy that's been in the league 5+ years now. So I think the Bucs lost that game themselves. I think the mistakes really just compounded.
Yeah, that's fair.
I will just I didn't watch the game. I'll be the first to admit this, but the one clip I saw of the game was Zane Gonzalez walking on the field to kick the game winner. Has anyone ever seen the hair flipped more times ever before?
He
had to get it
little
absolutely
nervous
perfect.
I know why he did that.
Okay.
I know exactly why he did that, and I have that same problem. Is that when you put a hat on, sometimes your hair gets smushed, and he was smushed against your face. He just didn't want it smushed against his face. I know that exact problem. I deal with it all the time.
11 times.
I do that. I do that. I will be the exact same person to do that because if there's like even one piece of hair sticking out, I can't have it. It's like a little OCD thing for me.
That's fair.
All right, that was a conversation I did not expect to have on this podcast. But
Little
here
rabbit
we
hole.
are. Yeah. So moving on to the next week, or is there anything else you want to talk about that game?
No.
Let's first preview the wild card game going on. What?
I predicted it, so
You were perfect on the weekend, weren't you?
No, he didn't have the Texans.
I did not have the Texans.
None of us had the Texans. You're right.
Yeah. Anyways, so with our divisional matchups are looking like the Kansas City Chiefs versus the Houston Texans, and then we have the Ravens and Bills. We also have the Eagles, or not the Eagles. The Eagles will be facing either the Minnesota Vikings or Los Angeles Rams, who play the night. You guys will be seeing this tomorrow, so you already know the results of that. And then lastly, it'll be the Lions and the Commanders. What do you think is the best opportunity? There's not really an upset in the Ravens or Bills games. I think that's a pretty even spread there. But when you look at the Chiefs and the Texans, you look at the Lions and the Commanders, and then potentially the Vikings or the Rams against that of the Eagles, where do you see the best potential for an upset?
Commanders.
I don't want to say it, but I have to agree. Commanders. I mean, you know, you get one playoff win, it can turn into two, it can turn into three. Momentum is huge in the playoffs, and the way that they won that game off of a doinked field goal, I mean, that's just like, that probably builds some of the most momentum is when you win a close game in a close fashion like that.
And not only that, I can't not confirm this exactly, but if I remember correctly, Detroit's secondary has been a question all year. Well, so you add Jaden Daniels heating things up, getting Dynami Brown, I'm messing up that name, involved. Scary Terry being Scary Terry. Him with his feet. I have a small fear that Washington can pull off the upset. We're all cheering for the Texans, though. That's for sure.
I will say
for sure.
on this matchup between the Commanders and the Lions, I'm very excited for the offensive battle between Ben Johnson and Cliff Kingsbury. I think we are going to see an offensive masterclass in this playoff game.
I would argue that the loser of this is going to be the next head coach of the Chicago Bears.
That's
Cliff? Cliff is in talks, huh?
I mean,
that's one way to ruin your team.
I heard interviewing Cliff, but you think about it, Cliff is very, very close with Caleb already.
He is.
They coached, I believe, together at USC, and I think he was his QB coach there.
Cliff was at USC?
Yeah, he was at USC for like a season.
I was about to say they overlapped very, very briefly.
So I didn't think it was.
So that's why he interviewed for the offensive coordinator job, but he did not take it. Luckily for him.
Yeah.
But I think the game to talk about is Baltimore-Buffalo.
Yeah, absolutely.
If for some reason nobody voted for the MVP, that can be the game to decide it. But I think they all had to have voted by now. But more and more I watch this team, and I know Colton's not going to like it. Baltimore might win this in a rout. That defense is the best defense in NFL statistically since Week 10 when they moved Hamilton back to his natural position. They are playing at an unbelievable level. They can run the ball. They can control the clock. Just something about this Baltimore team that is starting to scream to me. This is the year they get it done with Lamar.
I'll be honest, I am flipping from my original pick of the Bills in the Super Bowl, and I have the Ravens beating the Bills. I think the Bills will score 7 points in the first quarter, and the Ravens will score 28. And it will be a rout. I absolutely agree with that.
That is insane that you have flipped the narrative because you were team anti-Baltimore since the beginning of the year. And as the years gone on, you kind of change your opinion a little bit, but the fact to see that flip, I don't know if it's just putting that out there in the universe, so something else could go different, but I've also seen you do this with Joey Logano, and then it really happened. So it's an iffy situation. But this Baltimore team, man, it's just something about them this year that is very, very, very scary. and there's no point in talking this Houston Kansas City game.
Yeah, I don't know. I think I'm still gonna ride with Bills Mafia here. What's one thing we always harp on this show? It is very tough to beat a team twice. The Bills and the Ravens played each other earlier in the season, and the Ravens absolutely waxed them. I believe the final score was like 35-10, and the Bills looked embarrassingly bad in that game.
35-10 is the accurate score of Week 4.
Yeah. So I think the Bills are going to come out in this game and play with some fire. I mean, I think these guys are looking for revenge. I think they got embarrassed on a national stage, and I think they are trying to rectify that these playoffs. And I think Josh Allen is going to go nuclear. I think Josh Allen has the potential to throw for maybe 350, maybe 400 yards in this game because I think he will be that driven to win it.
I mean, it's going to take him.
Absolutely hope you're right.
It's going to take him doing that.
I know it's going to have to, but
James Cook isn't going to be able to run the ball, so it's going to have to be a Josh Allen game.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. But I think he'll get it done because I think that loss earlier in the season is still very clearly imprinted in the minds of these Buffalo Bills players.
That being said, if for some reason the winner of this game is who I'm cheering for in the AFC Championship game.
Pretty much, yeah.
I mean, we got to get Mahomes out of there, but the 25 days off is very intriguing to see how that works. Well, kind of off. The Texans they just seem too beat up.
I would agree.
That's the best way I can describe it. I don't see them being able to do great things. Minnesota Rams playing the Eagles. You guys have any thoughts on that? Do you think it's Minnesota rolling or?
I think it's going to be a close game, and I think the Rams take that one.
It takes over to. I messed it up, by the way. I meant Philly rolling. I apologize.
I think it'll still be a close game, but I think the end result will be not the Rams, the Eagles winning that game. I've also flipped on my NFC. I have the Eagles making the Super Bowl now. I think the Lions are going to be too beat up, and I think the Eagles are just a buzzsaw right now. And go ahead and no.
See, I'm not sure I buy the Eagles after this game.
That's true. I kind of thought about that game against the Packers a little more.
Yeah, if Love doesn't keep throwing the ball up to the Eagles, I mean that game's a lot
Never
closer.
mind, Lions got that one. I decided I wanted to flip on everything because I like teams I don't want to win should be the ones I pick to win. But no, I do think the Lions still take that game.
I still think, and I know it's going to be crazy, but there's something about this Rams team that I think they're about to get hot. They've kind of got themselves into the playoff run to go all the way there. And man, the cinema of Matthew Stafford going to Detroit in the NFC Championship game. First time ever the Lions could go to a Super Bowl. And they got to go through their best quarterback in franchise history to do it.
Yeah, the pageantry would be nothing short of perfection, I guess storylines wise. But in my opinion, regardless of who wins the game tonight between the Rams and the Vikings, I don't think either of those teams match up to the level of the Eagles. I think the Rams probably have a better opportunity of beating the Eagles than the Vikings do, in my opinion. But I still think the Eagles are just a team that is head and shoulders above those other two. I think we very clearly have four best teams in the NFL this year. It just sucks that the Chiefs get a walkover game to the AFC Championship game. I'm trying to inspire you a little, Texans. Show me some fight.
I mean, they got expired off of the media calling them out, losing to the Chargers and this and that. They started calling out analysts afterwards, so they're listening. Who knows? Maybe they hear our show. But I do have a very intriguing thing before we probably hit the 2-minute warning and that siren going off. Minnesota loses this game tonight. Sam Darnold, the starting quarterback. Do you franchise him? Do you bring him back? Do you move on to JJ? Do you look to trade JJ and get – because JJ McCarthy might be the best quarterback in this draft, if you get what I'm saying. Like, if JJ was in this draft instead, would he go above Shedeur? Would he go above Cam Ward? I know you're shaking your head, but I'm telling you.
Certainly not Cam Ward.
A lot of people think he would.
He wouldn't go over
They're
Cam
delusional.
Ward.
J.J. McCarthy is not that good of a quarterback. I don't know how many times I have to tell you this, old man.
Josh, I'm gonna call you out on bias here. I'm not.
This is not me. This is legit conversation that the Titans are potentially having the number one pick for J.J. McCarthy. Like, this is not left field.
That would be a terrible mistake.
But then, so my question is, if you're Minnesota, franchise Darnold, let J.J. learn for another year, re-sign Darnold long term, trade JJ? What do you do if you're Minnesota?
I think you're kind of screwed either way personally, but at least you know Darnold's going to work. So why does it hurt keeping him back another year in case JJ McCarthy doesn't work out?
So you say franchise?
Yes.
Okay.
I say he's at least earned one more year with the Vikings, given his level of play.
So franchise.
Regardless if they franchise
if
him, if they give him a 1-year deal, I think he's earned at least one more year.
He won't take a 1-year deal.
I know he won't.
It would be you'd have to franchise him.
If you still, you think about it, if they still had Josh Dobbs playing quarterback out there, like they would have even sniffed the playoffs. So clearly Sam Darnold is a level above that of what they wouldn't be here without Sam Darnold. Like in a sense. I mean,
this is a team we were leaving to dead. We were saying a top 10 pick at the beginning of the year, and now they're 3 wins away from the first franchise Super Bowl ever. It's just one of those things I wanted to bring up because it is a topic of conversation everywhere right now. Could the Titans trade for JJ? Could the Giants trade for JJ? Could the Raiders trade? Like, JJ is going to become the hot commodity, just like the rumor with Mike Tomlin being traded potentially is a hot commodity. I'm telling you to watch for the JJ McCarthy news. It is 100% real.
Okay. Yeah, I just think it's funny because I just don't think he's going to be a really good NFL quarterback.
The man's won at every level he's been at, but we'll see. Okay. I can't talk bad about him, and it's just it's for the brand. It'd be like you talking bad about Edie. You're never going to do it.
Yeah.
Except for mine brought me a national championship. Mm-hmm. That siren going off.
Greg Oden won at every level of that he played at, except for the NFL.
That siren did go off.
I did. None of us heard it. So.
Really? Oh.
Yep. So anyway, we'll just go straight into the 2-minute warning anyway, because he said the siren went off and none of us heard it. I didn't hear it. Did you hear it?
No, I didn't hear it.
Okay. Well, anyway, here we go. Are you happy with the Reds offseason so far? Colton, any take?
Yeah, I'm very happy with this offseason so far. I guess I don't have the very detailed take, but I'm excited to go to some games.
Garrett.
One more move. I want an outfielder. I am happy with the offseason that the Reds have had so far. They're making more moves than they usually do. I just want one more.
Is it fair to say C+? I'm content, but I'm not happy.
I'll go B-.
Fair enough. What college basketball team is going under the radar, Colton?
I'm thinking it's Georgia. When I wrote down that question, I didn't know the answer to it, and then I went through this weekend, watched some games, and yeah, I think Georgia was the team going under the radar. But if you want to talk about an unranked team, I think it's West Virginia.
Fair enough. Garrett, I know it's crazy to throw you. Okay, it's back to me. I'm gonna go Memphis.
Yeah, I don't have a horse in that race, pal.
Fair enough.
Hey, more than happy to hear it if you do.
So I'm going Memphis. You mentioned it. Has wins over UConn, Michigan State, Clemson, and Ole Miss. Also faced Auburn and Mississippi State. That non-conference schedule was tough, and it should help carry them into March to the point where I'm telling you, I'm gonna lock them in for at least a Sweet 16 this year.
Okay.
And then last but not least, most surprising performance from the wild card, Garrett.
I think it has to be the Texans. I don't think anybody expected that much of a point spread differential between those two teams.
Give me Justin Herbert having an Andy Dalton-esque game.
Yeah, no, mine's Herbert. That was an absolutely embarrassing performance, and there's no denying that.
He's the guy I was thinking, like, once he figures it all out, he's going to be a top 5 quarterback, and now I'm questioning whether he's a top 10 quarterback. So.
Not better than Bo Nix.
Oh, yeah. Okay. I was trying to process how you said it, what you said, but that's all we have for today. Thank you all for listening. Be sure to check us out on Apple and Spotify podcasts if you want to just listen while you're working out or in the car. Be sure to follow us on Twitter at NorseBWPod or X, whatever you want to call it now. We would make a TikTok, but rest in peace. Maybe not. We'll see. Anyways, I am looking to try and branch out our social media stuff since I have a lot of free time now. So as long as I still have that free time, be on the lookout for maybe some more social media content. We'll see how that all plays out. But lastly, thank you, Bill, and NKU Media Services for all that you do, letting us come in, even though I am now shunned from NKU, no longer a part of the campus. But thank you for letting me on and making this show better each and every week. Thank you, Garrett and Josh, for also coming on and staying here a little later than we're used to. But it might be the schedule for this week, or for this semester. So we'll see how it all works out. But we'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.